Hey everyone. I had to move this event to another link. I'm sorry, it's some issues with my encoder, whatever. I ended up having to do it via Google Hangouts. But hey, we're here. I'm sending the link along to anyone who's still struggling along.
I'm sorry,
We have Emil here already. That's awesome. Welcome, Emil. Emil says he's first and that he's the best. Okay. Gonna have to pass along this link so everyone finds it. Feel free to help me out if you like. If you think anyone else should be watching this stream, feel free to send them a link and to remind them if they don't know. It's always very hard to announce these events. I decided to do it earlier today. I'll do another live stream on Thursday on body language and live typing. I will basically try to do some live typing on stream. And today the topic is temperament theory, like temperament, the how we manage emotions and how we think and how we process information. So I'm often talking about 4 core temperaments: the leaders, the executives, the what should you say, the explorers and advisors. My tone there for a second, but there's 4 older words or 4 older terms that are worth checking out. Now, if any of you have seen them, it's the melancholics, the cholerics, the sanguine, and the phlegmatics. And has anyone else heard of these terms before? Anyone else know of these? Who do we have in here already? We have Yapping, we have Frank, we have Aiden, we have Ferry. All the good people are here already. That's awesome. Hope that some friends as well. And now we have Ruth here as well. Welcome, Ruth. And now everyone is having a showdown. Fist fights. Going to Holland for a fist fight. Sounds worth. Aiden got the test result melancholic. Temperament test. Let's see here if I can do this test. Can I score? What do I score on this temperament test? Okay, let's start already. Let's start up early. Let's just get right into it. Here we're going to do a live discussion on the temperaments and how you process and how you manage emotions, how you manage anger, shame, and different emotions, and how you find in particular balance and peace and stability. Often I tend to say that your core temperament is your comfort zone, how you ideally want to live, act, and think, what your natural orientation is, in a sense, to information and to emotions, how you prefer to manage emotions, and how you prefer to deal with them. So the temperament theory was probably one of the first theories on personality ever made. One of the old historical people said once that there were melancholic, choleric, phlegmatic, and sanguine types, and he said it had to do with kind of the different fluids and chemicals in the body, and the different concentrations of these chemicals create the different personalities. Of course, this was pretty much unfounded, but the Greek physician Aelius Galenus was still fairly popular in describing the humors and how people dealt with their personality. Okay. Let's see here if I can share my screen. First question. I choose my words with care. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I feel attacked by other people. No, I wouldn't say so. I don't care much when people insult me. No, I would say neutral on that one. I don't like getting gifts. I like getting gifts. I never slam the door. No, maybe on accident. I make people feel welcome. Yeah, I would say so. Do you guys feel welcome? I'd not mind if I stopped receiving holiday gifts. I'd feel okay about it. I avoid arguments. Yeah, I would say so. I'd hate to live in the far north. Yeah, no. I bet a lot of people with multiple personalities are just faking. What? What? I try to please everyone. Sure, I never think much about how I look. I would say mostly yes. It takes a lot of abuse to get me angry. No, I wouldn't say so. I dance when I'm alone. Yeah, sometimes. I would never attend therapy. Why not? Why not? I tell other people my secrets. Sometimes. And sometimes not. I seldom get mad. No, I don't get mad. I should be more careful with my secrets. No, I never felt bad about sharing anything. I lose my temper. Sometimes. I rarely get irritated. Um, agreed. Okay, I get irritated, but I rarely lose my temper. I would say I agree on I never lose my temper. It's hard for me to imagine what having low self-esteem would feel like. Yeah, no, why? I can imagine it. I'm relaxed most of the time. Um, yeah. I would be very hurt if someone accused me of being uncaring. Yeah, I would. I'm willing to take risks to establish a relationship. Yeah, I moved across the country to another country out of love. So I think I should. I think about the causes of my emotions. Yeah, of course, definitely. I feel jealousy as a physical pain. I would say a little, but not so much. I slam doors. Didn't I just get that one? I never slammed the door. I slam doors. Okay. So I guess I would say disagree here. I seldom feel blue. I feel blue. I do feel blue. I have not been jealous of anyone for quite some time. No, I am not. I feel my anxiety overwhelms me. Sometimes. I am the life of the party. No, I am pretty stable. I tend to feel very hopeless. Disagree. I whistle when I walk. Strongly agree. The good life is a peaceful life. Yeah. No, I don't know. It's like the good life is a peaceful life, but I like variation. I really like variation. I'm good with some chaos if it means even if it's at a compromise of peace. I like it when people are scared of me. Strongly disagree. I have had a dramatic falling out with a friend. Strongly agree. I try to outdo others. Yeah, I get angry easily. No, I feel comfortable with myself. I would say a little in between. I boss people around. No, I don't. I prefer variety to routine. Yeah, variety is nice. I'm gonna link this test for anyone who wants to do it. Are scared of you? Oh, I don't know. I don't know. Don't think a lot of people are scared of me. I don't think pretty much anyone is. I experience my emotions intensely. I would say difficult question to answer. I will say a little agree here. I suffer from others' sorrows. Yes, I do. I do. I make friends easily. Overall, I make acquaintances easily. I radiate joy. I think I do radiate joy. People have said I radiate happiness quite a few times. I have a strong need for power. No. I use flattery to get ahead. Sure. I daydream about being in love. Well, I am in love. Or, yeah, I don't know. I'm not super romantic, but I'm romantic a little. I would say maybe agree. To access your result, please do a quick survey. No, thank you. Okay. I scored sanguine or phlegmatic or melancholic. Little choleric. Your temperament is sanguine. The sanguine personality type is. God damn, I keep clicking the wrong button. Let's get us back on here. Let's get my face back on here. For anyone who misses my face. They tend to enjoy social gatherings, making new friends, and they tend to be boisterous. They are usually quite creative and often daydream. However, some alone time is crucial for those of this temperament. Sanguine can also mean sensitive, compassionate, and thoughtful. Sanguine personality types generally struggle with following tasks all the way through, are chronically late and tend to be forgetful and sometimes a little sarcastic. Often, when they pursue a new hobby, they lose interest as soon as it ceases to be engaging or fun. They are very much people persons. They are not talkative and not shy. They are talkative and not shy. Yeah, I can see some of the sanguine traits here in me. I can see the generally spontaneous pleasure seeking. I can see the sociability. I can see the enjoying of social gatherings. But it's kind of written to be very generalistic. So I think anyone could. It could be easy to a lot of this. Now, the way I see it, I'm going to get back to the melancholics. I'm going to get back to the cholerics. I'm going to start with the question of how you manage emotions. And I'm going to start with internal or external emotions. And I've found that this is a pretty strong divider for introverted versus extroverted types. What I found is that if you see your emotions as coming from within, if you see yourself as responsible for your own feelings, or if you see emotions as a result of what you do and who you are, then that often tends to be an indicator that you're an introvert. If you see emotions as coming from the outside or based on how the world around you looks and is shaped, what you see other people doing, how you are affected by other people, then that tends to often be a good marker for an extrovert. Often extroverts tend to externalize a lot of their emotions and their thoughts. They tend to see their thoughts or their emotions as a result of their environment. Depending on how your environment is, that can be a kind of indicator of where you see emotions coming from, what makes you feel emotions a certain way. Yeah, the extroverted types tend to, when angry, see things in their environment that relate to this feeling of being angry. When an extrovert thinks a certain way, they tend to see the environment a certain way. Often that inner state can affect the outer state. Often for an extrovert, it's that if your environment is irregular, you're going to be more affected by that. An extrovert is more affected when they see other people around them that are angry, or when they see a lot of people around them that are doing things wrong, or when other people are messing up, or when they see other people struggling. It can be that the extroverts tend to make connections and base a lot of their emotions and their experiences on what's happening around them. That's also what makes them more relevant. Like often there's a high relevancy in what an extrovert feels. An extrovert can usually verbalize why they feel a certain way. They can say exactly what around them makes them feel a certain way. That when you do that, that makes me angry. When I see people do that, that upsets me. When I see things happening in this or that way, that I don't like that. It's that an extrovert tends to have generally a strong idea of how their environment affects them and what they think and who they are. It's that seeing and reading objectively the environment, what people are, who is ahead, who is behind, who is the most appreciated, and so on and so on. Now, if you're a thinking type, this can be a little less to some extent, because often thinkers tend to be a little more detached from their emotions, just as intuitives are somewhat often detached from their bodies and their physical experience. But it's that introverts could say will go and engage inwardly when they feel bad. When an introvert feels bad, often they feel that they need to correct their thinking or their perspective or how they see the world. An introvert will often see their feelings and their emotionality as a result of their inner state, what they think, what they believe, how they see the world. If an introvert feels unhappy, often they assume it is because they have a bad perspective, or because they are wrong, or because they have missed something. And they have to go inside to figure out what it is that they missed. They have to go inside to study themselves, their thoughts, their patterns, and who they are in a sense. So, and that's also because you place the bigger significance on your inner life and what you think and who you see yourself as and what you think about the world. You place a lesser significance on environmental events, what other people have told you, what you've heard from other people, what you've seen around you. So introverts place key significance on their own feelings and their own state and what's happening inside, where extroverts tend to place a key significance on what's happening around them. I hope that makes sense in a sense. um, Aiden says, I can usually link negative feelings to things that are the cause of them. I just don't care to tell anyone. Don't need to bother other people with my stuff. Yeah, that's also a part of it for an introvert. It's an introvert does not share information about how they feel and what they are thinking as readily as an extrovert, where extroverts are usually more comfortable saying what they're thinking and what they're feeling. It's that an extrovert. An introvert would also, to some extent, not see other people as related to how they feel. Like they would often say, I don't want to bother other people with my emotions or what I'm thinking. I don't want to assert myself unless I feel it is necessary. First, it's that you don't see the value of involving other people in it because you assume that you have the personal solution to the question. Second, it's that you're bad at sharing to some extent. And what I'm realizing when I'm studying the temperament is that it's kind of a blind spot, because of course, to some extent, the environment drives how you feel. It's not that introverts are not affected by how other people feel, it's that they don't notice the impact. It's not that extroverts are not impacted by their own inner state or what they're feeling, it's that they don't recognize the impact. It's that blind spot. And of course, this blind spot, especially from an emotional perspective, is even bigger for the thinking types. Now, I would say that the four new Jungian temperaments are first the leaders, the introverted and judging types, the INFJ, the INTJ, the ISTJ, and the ISFJ. Those are the leader temperaments. Then there is the executive temperament, the ENFJ, the ENTJ, the ESTJ, and the ESFJ. Then there is the advisor temperament, INFP, INTP, ISTP, ISFP. And finally, there's the explorer temperament. It's the ENFP or the ENTP or the ESTP or the ESFP. I would say that the leader would say happiness is an ambition, and that this ambition is best explored within yourself. Where the explorer would say that the world around me is a reflection of my emotional state. The advisor would say happiness is found within, often in the small and surprising things. The executive, the ENFJ, for example, would say happiness is a result of what you do and who you are able to achieve, what you're able to achieve in the world. So the judging and perceiving is a little different from the internal and external emotions. Often it's that the judging type has a need to control and direct their emotions, where the perceiving type is more free flow in their expression of how they feel and how they think. Judging type will seek to direct how they think, how they act, what they do, and how they do things. They will seek to organize their actions and their feelings. They would say that, in general, I would say that it's about how quickly you want closure on what you feel. If you're feeling something, if you feel upset as an ENFJ, then you don't feel the same need to get immediate closure on that feeling of being upset as an ENFP. An ENFP who felt upset would feel more inclined to express that emotion outwardly and to tell people that you're feeling upset and that this is not right. The ENFJ would feel more inclined to deliberate on this emotion. Okay, what can I do to not feel upset in the future? They would create a happiness plan or a happiness project. And then they would write down a 10-step plan to become happy and to stop being upset. And they would come up with this elaborate scheme to deal with this emotion. An example of this elaborate scheme, I think, is found in 13 Reasons Why, where the ENFJ main character, and this is quite drastic, uh, kills herself and then sends a message in 13 parts explaining why she did what she did to get rid of that anger and that feeling of being upset. She devised a scheme to kind of direct and to express her emotions. And to other people around her, it was a complete surprise and to many that she felt this way. Of course, to some people, they understood that they had hurt her and that they had messed up somehow. But I think a lot of people were unaware of the extent of it. And I don't think an ENFP would deliberate to such an extent on how they feel. Yeah, people leave messages when they kill themselves. That happens. It's a movie, of course. It's a TV show. It's not as crazy as it sounds. I don't know if this is based on a real event or anything. I don't think so. It's more a TV show where they talk about suicide and what makes a person kill themselves and what happened, and it goes over this crisis because it was a crisis and to such a big extent. So often the key here is the perceiving type wants quicker feedback when they feel bad. They want a quicker solution. It's difficult for a perceiving type to wait and see what happens to the emotion over time. Often it's that judging types want to deliberate and wait and see if this emotion stays over time. They might say, oh, I'm going to try again, or I'm going to wait a little before I do something and change up my plan. But perceivers will want to change up their plan or what they do, or take a new course of action or find a new way if they feel sad or upset. So yeah. Temperament is to one extent about how you manage emotions and to one extent how you manage your thoughts. Temperament is kind of divided into both of those parts. A person of the explorer temperament has a unique way of managing emotions and managing their thoughts. An INFJ has a distinct way of managing their emotions and their thoughts. Often INFJs would say that their feelings are their own fault and that they are responsible for their own emotions. INFJs would place the key blame on themselves if something went wrong. An INFJ would say, no, this is not who I want to be, or they would feel bad about themselves, so they would internalize shame and they would say they would be more inclined to feel bad about themselves and who they are for who they are in a sense. Often it's that when you talk about like something such as shame, an INFJ is quite shameless in their environment. They don't go into their environment to tell people, like they don't feel bad about how other people see them. INFJs don't necessarily feel ashamed of what other people think about them, but INFJs can feel bad about who they are. And that's the blind spot. That's the blind spot, that it's purely your own responsibility and purely your own fault. But that's also kind of part of the leader, and why I call it the leader. Like a leader has places personal responsibility on themselves for who they are and for what they do. And It's of course an INFJ can place responsibility on other people and can at times suddenly feel like taken over by this anger at the world or how things are. But the overall is desire to place key emotional responsibility on yourself and making yourself the responsible person for fixing things. An ENTJ would say, "Hey guys, you need to fix this. I don't like this. This is not good. We need to fix it. We need to do something about it." A leader would generally not involve other people in that way. I tend to say that the concept of fault is always problematic. I hate the thought of a bad emotion being anyone's fault. I hate to say that it's my fault or that it's someone else's fault. I don't want to think that way. I want to think that I don't want to think about the term of fault or the concept of fault because it's not about that. A feeling is a feeling, and a thought is a thought. What you're thinking is what you're thinking. The feeling is the feeling. Like it's nothing wrong with having a feeling or thinking a certain way. It's just what it is. It's just what it is. And I think often what we all need to gear towards is an acceptance towards emotions and towards what we feel and understanding it in a sense. Notes are really suicide is a really difficult topic. It's a real difficult question. I don't know what's the best way to kill yourself, or is there if there is a good way to kill yourself, or if there is a nice way to go about it. I don't think there is. It just sucks. It's just terrible. It's just not good. And the way I see it, I've been going back and forth on the traditional temperament descriptions. I don't think they're necessarily perfect, the melancholic definition or the phlegmatic definition. I don't think none of them are necessarily, or I think a lot of them are quite general or quite difficult in a way. I know that Kersey would say that the temperaments were related to whether you were an NF, an NT, an SF, or an ST, and I don't believe that at all. I don't see that. I don't see how you could say that. Um, I know that the melancholics were marked by being sensitive, and I can see why that made him pull towards the NF. He would say that well, an NF is generally more sensitive. They're generally more easily hurt, and they have more idealistic expectations. You could call that a form of perfectionism in a sense, because idealism is a form of perfectionism. It's a flavor of it. It's that having ideals or higher ideals or a dream of how things could go and feeling disappointed by it. It is that moodiness and it is that emotionality. Like an NF is very aware of their emotions and how they feel and how they think. An NF is generally very aware of what they're feeling at all times. I think it's very difficult for an NF to not be aware of feelings or to not notice feelings in life or in what you do, to not feel that, oh my God, I'm angry right now, or I'm sad right now, or I'm upset right now. And emotions are just such a dictating force in NF life. As an NF, I think you have to constantly manage and respond to emotions. Emotions are like always there. And I think sometimes as an NF, you feel emotions even when there is nothing happening around you relevant to what you feel. You just feel it because you feel it, and because it's just there, it just comes up. Iris asks what the temperament theory adds compared to the MBTI and Enneagram. I use temperaments as a part of the MBTI. I talk about IJs, EJs, EPs, and IPs. I talk about advisors, explorers, executives, and leaders. So if you are, depending on your MBTI type, you have already a different temperament. Now, the melancholic temperament, the phlegmatic temperament, the choleric temperament, I think that's a little different. He, the general description of a phlegmatic type is someone who is meek, submissive, and introverted, and who lives to please other people. The sanguine type, boisterous, bubbly, chatty, openly emotional, socially extroverted. The choleric type, proud, extroverted, alphas of our species. Leaders and directors seek to be in control of situations, to be on top, to be the best. They will use imperative commanding language, wording things as orders rather than requests. Compare "get me a drink" to "can I have a drink." They probably use phrases like "deal with it" or "get over yourself" or "stop being such a wimp." And we start sentences with "look" or maybe "look buddy" or "listen pal" or something like that. Okay, this is the general description I'm seeing here of the choleric type. And it's a picture of an angry person. So apparently the choleric type is constantly angry. The sanguine type is always happy. The melancholic type is always sad. And the phlegmatic type is always just content, just okay. I can see definitely why you could use the classic temperaments and compare them to the NF, the NT, the SF, and the ST. Um, and I would always say that intuitives are more introverted than sensors. I think that's almost generally a thumb rule. A person that is very extroverted is often more inclined to sensing. That idea of the ENFP as the life of the party, loud and extreme and cheerful and always happy and everything is great and all things are perfect, party, party, party. No, that's the SF. That's a sanguine type. That's the person that is more about the moment, more about the room, more about the intensity, more about the intensity of life, the beauty of life, the pleasure of life. And I definitely see why ENFPs and ENFJs fall better into the melancholic temperament, because I see in the ENFP and the ENFJ this emotional sensitivity. That why did they say that? What made them do that? Why would they do such a thing? Why is life like this? I don't want this. I'm happy with life this way. Like it's that feeling of reflecting or introspecting on life and where you are and who you are and why life is the way it is and what you can do about it. And it's that awareness of the future also driving you towards like this melancholy vibe or this general state of melancholy. I feel like there is a state of discontent often in the NF, a state of feeling that life is not good enough the way it is, and a state of wanting to change things and wanting to change things up or to move forward or to get somewhere. And the way I see it, the choleric type is more likely to be a sensing and thinking type, or a person who's developed to be more choleric, person in a sensing and thinking development. A person that is more proud and who is more extroverted, making it more inclined to sensing. A person that is more about asserting themselves and winning and status and being tough and being enduring and being successful, having that materialistic sensing vibe or having that drive towards living life and taking life by the horn and jumping at the ball and actually going for something. Um, and finally, I do see the phlegmatic as more NT-like. And I would perhaps not say the NT was meek at all. Um, at least not all of the NTs. But I would say and I wouldn't associate the phlegmatic with being a mediator or being peaceful or self-compromising or not wanting to win. So that's the most difficult one to pair to a particular type. I see a lot of Enneagram 9 in here, clouding up this description. So it's not perfect at all. So all of you scored towards sanguine. I think there is a little more SF there in how you act and how you conduct yourself. And those that are a little more towards the choleric, that's a little sensing there coming out, I think. Because often that inclination to want to be extroverted, that's often a result of this sensing dominated society, like this society that values surface and strength and assertiveness and taking the center of the stage and making a scene for yourself, making an entrance and saying, "Hey, everyone, look at me." That's a sensing type. Um, that's what you're gonna see in a sensing type. Yeah, Yapping asks what types are more choleric again. That's the sensing and thinking types that are the most inclined towards being choleric. I am thinking about all of this, going to relate more towards being a melancholic. I would say that I have this sanguine shell, the sanguine atmosphere or vibe that I've taught myself to always be hopeful around other people, to always instill hope and enthusiasm and so on. But I am quite a brooding type. I'm a type that reflects a lot of my emotions and how I feel, a person that about life and who I am and where I'm going. I am somewhat over analytical. I am constantly questioning life. I am constantly reflecting on who I am and where I'm headed. That's quite close to my natural makeup, but I wouldn't say that that makes you like destined to be melancholic. I don't think being an NF makes you destined to be melancholy or to feel that way. The way I've seen it when I've researched emotions is your type, your dominant personality type, is a reflection of who you are when you are in a state of balance and comfort, when you are in tune with yourself, with who you are, with yourself, just the way you are, not wanting to change anything, not wanting to do anything crazy. Basically, uh, an NF is happy, an NF is courageous, an NF is peaceful and at peace in general. But I think in today's society, the NF is inclined towards melancholy. In today's society, in today's life, in today's world, and how things are today, I think the NF is inclined towards melancholy. Because we live in a world that is so inclined towards forcing you to think like a sensor. An NF is melancholy in contrast to, or when placed in an environment made for sensors. And NT is going to struggle similarly with also a similar range of sensitivity, a similar range of not or towards overthinking, because this world of sensing. The way I mean here, the core reason sensing makes an NF unhappy, makes an intuitive unhappy, is because it drains you. This state of melancholy is this state of, or this result of being drained. Almost all my bad mood swings, almost all my stress and anxiety comes from this feeling of being drained, of first being too materialistic, first being too overwhelmed, too uh, feeling I had to act like a sensor, towards putting in so much energy and effort into things until the point where I neglected my own energy and my own boundaries. I would push myself so hard that it would make me miserable. And I think a lot of NFs struggle with that, pushing themselves so hard that they become miserable. And if you made an ST act like an NF, they would feel that too. If you pushed an ISTJ towards being like an NF, they would also look melancholy. They would look bored and drained and tired and exhausted and anxious and stressed and frustrated. And this is important to recognize. The state of being overwhelmed makes you more likely to overthink life, to pull away, to brood, stressed, exhausted, and anxious. Aiden, a melancholic NT, is more like is more inclined towards feeling. Like they've developed to be more feely. They've developed towards being more in feeling. But there is a melancholy to the NT, and I was going to say I don't think the phlegmatic is a good fit for the NT at all. Uh, I would say that you can probably have a better fit as a mix of the melancholic and the choleric type. The NT is kind of a mix between these two, this sad and this angry type, in a sense. The NT has this preference towards thinking, and that makes them less about why that person said that and why that person is that way. That makes the NT is much more about correcting and fixing and overcoming. Like then the thinking type feels so badly that they have to fix things logically. Like the what I see with INTPs and NTs overall is this desire to always have a solution, to always have an answer, to always have a fix to a problem. When you feel bad, to stop feeling bad, you want to do something that will make you feel better. The NT is inclined towards fixing their emotional state and why they feel bad. And so they don't have to think about it, so they don't have to deal with it, so they don't have to process it. You see the NTs also having this kind of choleric style of saying get over yourself or don't be a wimp. They will tell themselves like these things. I see NTs doing it a lot, like telling themselves, no, I shouldn't do that, I shouldn't be like that, I shouldn't dwell on things. And that is often the core makeup of a thinker, now of telling yourself not to dwell on the harshness of life, or to focus on accepting life and to moving with it and to accepting things and to moving forward in a sense. Root says, in today's society, the NF is inclined towards melancholy because the society is structured for sensors. That makes sense. That is how I feel. Matt says, I'm drained and stressed and miserable. I have to work at a warehouse job 9 hours a day, 5 days a week. Yeah, I think none of us really like this work-oriented culture. Most people state that they are dissatisfied with their work and with their environment. Most people are not happy with how work is. It sucks. And here's, of course, like often a difference between NTs and NFs. NTs tend to say, okay, but if you're sad, why don't you just change your job then? If you're sad, why don't you just talk to your boss then? Why don't you do something? They will identify solutions for you. The NF will more focus on your emotional life, why you feel that way, what makes you feel bad about your job, what makes you feel struggle with your job. Now I'm talking tendencies here. I'm not talking thumb rules. I'm not saying NFs will always do this, but I'm saying that NFs are inclined to do this or tend to prefer to do this. So I think that's important to remember. Fairy of something says, I'm an NF and I don't like showing people that I care so much about everything. I sometimes even lie to myself about that. Yeah, I think hiding a little or lying to yourself about how you feel. Yeah, I can understand that. I think I met a lot of people in my life that I knew or saw they were in hiding. I've met intuitives that were hiding as sensors in a sense. They were putting on a show for the world and they were fitting in, and I would see them struggle and I would see their struggle, and I would see how how they were kind of in a like a shell waiting to come out. Eventually they did come out. Eventually they did start speaking out for themselves and doing things. I think it's easy to get trapped in a job you don't like and to not know exactly how to get out of it, because often you feel you work so hard that you don't really have time to look for other jobs, and then maybe you look and you don't have time for interviews, or maybe you can't really put in as much effort as someone who is unemployed. Uh, Also, that the longer you stay at the workplace, the more narrowed in and cornered you tend to become. Like I see a lot of people who should have switched their job on like 3 or 4 years in, because if you work too long, you simply start narrowing yourself in and limiting yourself, and then you go to new employers, and they kind of think you're a one trick pony. They think you're only capable of doing that job that you didn't like to begin with. So it's a struggle. It's a big struggle. Kind of keeping your freedom in the work society. Personally, of course, this is my job. You guys are my job. Patreon is my job, and my website, erikthor.com, is my job. I am working day to day on new articles, new content, new products, and everything. And that's, of course, my passion. And there's a gray line to passions. Like, of course, I do search for other jobs. Of course, I do apply for other possibilities. I've applied for a lot of flex jobs, and I've done a lot of flex jobs in the past, and I like to do that. I'm in the middle of applying for a lot of things right now as well in Amsterdam, like translator jobs for different companies, and I'll be happy with that. I keep thinking about like what would make me happy, and I'm also realizing the stress of city life for an intuitive. I've talked about this in many videos that intuitives feel exhausted and overwhelmed because well, living in a city where things are always happening, where there's always parties, always things to do, always like experiences to be had. First, as an NF, you can kind of get too caught up in it too easily. You can start thinking, you start getting into that seven habit of always keeping yourself busy and always having things to do and always rushing through things and wanting to be everywhere at once. And you don't feel as good about it as a sensor would. An intuitive, going into sensing, does not feel happy. That's important to remember. Like when an intuitive goes into sensing, they can do it. They can manage that, and they can be in that for a long time. But an intuitive will always feel a little frustrated by it. They will feel frustrated by having to go into it. They will feel like it's a drain, and they will feel like, I don't want to go out. I don't want to leave the house. Like I hear all intuitives do this. When they're like, there's a party or there's an event, they're always like, I don't wanna, I don't wanna. It's not good. I don't like it. And then they do it anyway. So that's the thing. Like you have to constantly motivate yourself as an intuitive to do things sensors would naturally do much more easily. As an intuitive, you have to force yourself to get into that energy and into getting into the mood or into the mindset to enjoy it. And eventually you can learn to do it so well that you don't even notice that you do it. And yeah, I sell ebooks. That gives me some money. Not a lot, really. I don't sell a lot. My Patreon page, my YouTube, yeah, it does not add up to a lot of money. I have a very tight budget, but it works for now. Iris says, when I do sometimes share emotions, I feel like justifying that I can handle the feelings in myself. Yeah, I see a lot of people do that. They go, I'm sad, but I'm okay. I will be okay. Like telling other people, like, oh, I'm sad, but don't make a big deal out of it. Please don't make a big deal out of it. It's just what I feel. Like that's, and I guess that can happen also if you have, or if you feel that other people are a little too dramatic, or that other people get, you don't want to worry other people. When you feel that you make other people worry, or if you're afraid of making other people worry. And hmm. I do think being self-employed is the dream when it's sustainable. It's not the dream when you're struggling with food every month. It's not a dream when it's difficult, but it's a dream when you're free and when you don't have to feel like, oh, I'm forced to get up to go to work every day. I'm forced to do everything. Like that feeling of being your own person and owning yourself. At least to me, that's very liberating, and I'm very good at motivating myself and driving myself forward. As a judging type, I think it is easy for me to do all these things. Mariposa says you have to always allow digesting time for experiences, or you won't be able to enjoy the next one. Yes, and it's also that intuitives need to practice their imagination. When you're bored, you don't necessarily need to do anything, but you can imagine. And that's the one of the important things intuitive has to recognize: the power of empty spaces, the power of standing somewhere where there is nothing, where there is absolutely nothing. At being at an empty party where nobody else is, at being in a room where that is completely dark, that importance of freedom and the freedom that nothingness gives you, in a sense, and the creative possibility of nothingness. Where there is nothing, there is always something to do for an intuitive. When there is everything, when you go to a place where everything already is, everyone's talking loudly and quickly, there is no room for your creativity or your ideas and for you to share what you're thinking or what's happening or what you're thinking about. It's difficult. So you have to kind of leave and find a secluded area with the fewer people. It's about that. It's about that ability to find areas that are less crowded. It's about finding empty spaces on whiteboards. And it's about looking at those things. It's about looking at the things that are hidden. As an intuitive, you want to investigate the hidden corners of the world, the places nobody has been to yet, the things nobody has seen yet. Go to Mars. Yeah, Mars is perfect. There is nobody there to bother you, and there is a lot to happen, and your imagination can basically go wild in space. Imagine just looking at all that empty space and what it does to your head. A judging type does keep going when they know what they're doing. When a judging type does not know what they're doing, then they're just stuck. When you don't have a plan, when you don't have a strategy, when you don't have an ideology or a vision, then sorry, then it's difficult. Geesh Girl says, "Oh, that's crazy. Is that why I can't move forward? The concrete doesn't matter." Yeah, like when everything is when all your doors and all your imagine you have a bag full of fruit. When that bag is full, you can't put anything new in it. When you already have everything busy for you, like that's why you can't do anything. Often you can't create your own career if you are also working full time. You can't, like, everyone needs to realize there's a limited amount of hours in the day. There's a limited time where you can do things. If you're always where everyone is and where everything is happening, yeah, that's not going to stimulate you creatively. That's not going to give you energy. That's not going to give you forward, that feeling of moving forward. And you do need energy to move forward. If you have power but not energy, that's like having in a sense, your gas pedal full in drive but your tank empty. You're not getting forward on no gas. You're not getting forward on no energy. Intuition is energy. Intuition is energy. Being alone, having privacy, having time for yourself, having darkness, having empty spaces, that is energy for an intuitive. That's where an intuitive recharges energy. And it's you need those spaces to be able to put the gas down, to be able to move forward. And ideally, you're going to want to keep moving forward through emptiness. You're going to need to move forward towards decluttering, moving forward, coming up with new ideas, but also moving forward to new platforms where there is nothing and where you can keep on creating new things. I keep creating new content. I keep creating new videos. I rarely do the same video over and over. I never hold the same speech over and over. I never repeat myself. I never fill up. I keep moving to the next page, the next post, the next article. I don't sit and rewrite an article 500 times. I delete it and then I rewrite it. That's how I utilize my intuition. That's how I utilize my creativity. And every time I rewrite that article, I do it better, and it's faster. It's faster for me to rewrite an article from scratch, remove everything and rewrite it. than it is to edit it and to fix it and to keep on adding things to it. Frank says, learn about conspiracy theories that can help with depression. The Pooh says, I'm really depressed and I've lost a lot of, and the only thing that keeps me living is exploring my inner world and its relation to the outer. I'm sorry to hear that, man. I keep saying this to introverted fives. Don't worry about going inwards, and it's nothing wrong with going inwards and with exploring your own head. That's not necessarily the problem. The problem is exploring the wrong things inside, and the problem is the way you think about things and kind of your lack of stimulation and your lack of outlet for your energy and for your power and for what you want. Uh, so do keep exploring and do keep thinking about it if you want. As an introvert, that's fine. That gives you center, that gives you balance. But find energy in how you think, and don't think and don't limit your thoughts too much. Often with fives, what I see is fives limit themselves in what they think. It's that Doctor Strange thing, it's that don't think you know everything. It's realizing you don't know everything. It's realizing you don't have all the answers. Fives often think they have all the answers, that they have got it all figured out, or that they know everything. And that's kind of staring through a pigeonhole, and it's kind of getting outside that. What Iris says is so good. Life is great. It's hard, but it's hard to make you experience the best things, even in a better way. So, the title of this video was Temperament Theory, How Emotions Fuck Us Up and Fix Us. What can we say about that title? Yeah, that emotions are important to all types, that emotions are important to the thinkers as well as the feelers. That as a thinker, it's about kind of noticing that the need to rationalize all emotions and to rationalize all experiences. To a feeler, it's about kind of being over aware of your emotions in a sense, and to not realize why you feel the way you do. And to, as an NF, I think you feel that a lot of the time, that confusion of feeling bad but not knowing why. A lot of times I feel feelers struggle with putting words or reasons behind why they feel the way they do. With the leader type, the INFJ and the INTJ, it's that combating that blind zone of thinking that all your actions and all your decisions are your own responsibility and your own fault. It's not. Your emotions and everyone's struggles are shared. There are people facing the same difficulties you are, and there are reasons why you feel the way you do. Recognize also the times when your environment, a messy room, or things around you are causing you to feel bad. Realize when things around you are driving your feelings. The blind zone for an introvert is that belief that it's all in my head, when it's not. Of course it's not. It's also outside. It's both. To an extrovert, it's the opposite. It's the realization of how your inner state affects your feelings. Sometimes it's not that your environment is bad. There's nothing wrong with your relationship or where you live or what's going on. Sometimes it's all within. Sometimes it's all what you're thinking and what you're feeling on the inside. As a perceiving type, it's that ability to wait and to see if things get better. Sometimes feelings can feel bad for a while, but see if that emotion stays, see if that emotion changes over time. Recognize that it will change, things will get better. And as a judger, it's that become more comfortable recognizing your own emotions in the situation that you feel them. Don't hold them back too much and don't restrain yourself too hard. Don't put your emotions on a too tight leash and don't control your emotional expression too much. You might have a strong code of conduct and a belief about when it is right to feel emotions and when it's right to uh, do or feel a certain way. But it's about recognizing and overcoming that and finding ways to recognize your own emotions and how you feel. Rebecca Simpson says, "How do I get out of my own head, lol?" uh, I don't think there's anything wrong with being in your own head. I think often when you're in touch with your introversion or with your extroversion, everything is easier. You have more stability, you have more security, you understand the information that you're facing. You feel a sense of rationality behind life, and you feel a sense of reason to why life is the way it is and why you think the way you do. So when you're not in your head, that's when you feel lost. That's when you feel like you don't know what's going to happen next or where you're going or what's going on. So feel free to be rational, but explore that. Like I said, with the fives, it's not that they get lost in their own heads or that they want things that they're too rational. It's that they think they know the answers to everything, but they don't. Fives think they know the way the world works, and they take things for granted, and they keep going over the same conclusion over and over, but they don't open themselves to greater truth and balance and harmony within. There is a need for reflection here often, a need for insight, like an INFJ, for example, in the five. The INFJ in the five goes into introverted thinking, and that's not a good place for an INFJ. When an INFJ goes into introverted thinking, it's that you get overly certain of yourself, you get overly demanding of accuracy when you don't need it. It does nothing to an INFJ to have accuracy. An INFJ or an INFP does not need accuracy. An INFJ just needs harmony and understanding of the way the world works. You don't need to know precisely how the world works, but you need to know why it works the way it does as an INFJ. And that is the greater truth for an INFJ. That is expanding your mind. And it's the other way around for an INTJ or 9TP. An INTJ or 9TP5 is too caught in why the world works the way it does. They're constantly going over why things work the way they do, but they're not going over how the world works. And the question of why is not as important to you as an INTP or an INTJ. So don't get stuck on it. Don't get stuck on thinking that the world has to work a certain way. Don't get stuck on that question because it doesn't give you anything. I hope that makes sense. I'm noticing that the Enneagram type is so often a direct result. The result is different depending on your personality type. An INFJ going into 5 is different from an INTP going into 5. It's the reverse way. They're 5s for different reasons. They're stuck on different things. The INFJ is stuck on how, and the INTP is stuck on why. Why am I struggling? Why is my life like this? Versus the INFJ that goes into how. How does the world work? How do I work? When the question is why. Different questions give you different power. Different questions affect you differently depending on your personality type. Often people have the wrong questions, but there is a right question. So what is the right question for you? That is what it is to find out your personality type. It's time to round off this stream. Does anyone have any finishing words, any final words to end up this video? Iris asks, can that cause mistypings? Yes, it's very common to mistype as an INTP when you're an INFJ in 5. Or as an ISTP even. Because you're so obsessed with how. You're obsessively thinking about how the world works, but you're not getting any power out of it. An INTP gets power out of that question. An INTP feels a sense of relaxation and relief when they find out the answer to how the world works. The INTP feels a sense of increasing power and awareness and control as they understand more and more about the world. The INFJ just feels increasingly and disempowered. Like they feel like they're losing power. They feel like they're getting weaker and weaker, and that they keep on struggling, and that they keep on feeling stuck, no matter how much they think about the way their life is, and the way they keep trying to figure out what's wrong, when often there's nothing wrong, and they're not getting anywhere with that question. So what you have to do when you're stuck or mistyped because of your enneagram is find out if your personality type, the way you see yourself, is actually making you happy. Often the way I see it, INTPs that think they are doomed to because of their personality type, or that think that have this sense of feeling bad about their personality type, are more likely to be mistyped. Where INTPs that feel better about being INTPs generally are less likely to be mistyped. It's just a thumb rule, but it's a good start. Matt says Enneagram MBTI theory of special relativity. Yeah, I have invented a relativity theory for the Enneagram or the MBTI or something. I wove them all together, and this is what happened. Yapping Warrior says, I think people also mistype with their Enneagrams because of their MBTI types. They look at the description over the motivations and fears of the type. Yes, I think that's more common to mistype your Enneagram than your MBTI type. I see a lot of people saying that if I'm an 8, I must be an ENTJ, because 8s are, of course, much more about asserting themselves in the world, and pushing their own worldview on the world, and taking responsibility, and fixing, and making the world better based on what they think is better. And of course, that can make an introvert more extroverted going into the 8. Finishing words: keep living even if the world is shit. My God, it's depressing, but true. um, I must say this stream is probably the darkest that we've ever made together. But I will say there's also relief here. Like, I'm realizing there is so much that could change and become better for intuitives. There is so much we could do together to make the world better for us intuitives. And maybe there are some sensors in there, but often intuitives are more interested in this topic. I think we can make the world better, and we can make our own lives better by taking more time to reflect on life, to making decisions in life that may protect us from becoming overworked. We can make decisions in life that put us in environments that give us more privacy and time for contemplation. We can put ourselves in environments that are more open and that give us more time to breathe and more freedom. How you kind of go from being this melancholic NF towards being a sanguine NF, if you want to say that's the goal. Thank you all for joining today's stream, and I hope to see you guys on Thursday. On Thursday, we're doing a live typing stream where we do and study people based on their body language. Together, we're gonna learn how to type and how to use body language to understand a person better. Thank you all for joining up. I'm happy to have you here. Thank you, Charles. Thank you, Iris. Thanks, Yapping. Thanks, Aiden, Deepu, Frank. So glad to have you here. Thank you, Magic. Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Geesh Girl. And thank you, Rebecca, Matt. It's been a blast, as always. Bye.